Okay, so the first thing we must do with Romanza is take a look at the right hand. This right hand pattern repeats from the start of the piece to the very end, so it's something you really must get right. There are 3 strong beats in the bar, and each of those beats is themselves divided into 3. Those 3 notes are played on the 1st string, 2nd string, 3rd string. Like that. And we play that with the ring finger on the 1st string, the middle finger on the 2nd string, and the index finger on the 3rd. Let me repeat that for you. For a 2nd time, and a 3rd. So that's our bar, that's 1 bar of the piece there. You play 1 and a, 2 and a, 3 and a. Now we need to add in a strong bass note on beat 1. That's going to be with the ring finger on the 1st beat of the bar, like this. Again. I know that when students try that, they'll often play the thumb on every beat like this. So you're going to have to learn to get that right. It's just on beat 1. So that pattern just keeps going, as I say, from beginning to end. Later on, I'm going to show you some extra exercises that will help add strength to the right hand and clarity and rhythmic clarity. So we can do that later on. Okay, so now let's look at the left hand. You begin on the 7th fret of the 1st string with your little finger. That's in fact your first bar of music. So little finger on the 7th fret, that puts us in 4th position. See, my index finger, my 1st finger would be on the 4th fret. In the next bar, we're going to have a position shift. We go from 4th position to 2nd. So let me show you that. You'll have little finger on the 7th fret. Again. 2nd finger on the 5th fret. Then bring your 2nd finger down to the 3rd fret. 3rd finger falls to 1st to open. What we have there really is a scale. The melody moves in step: B, A, G, F sharp, E. We put it all together, it sounds like this. So we've just worked our way down the 1st string. The next thing you need to do is work your way back up. But where the first portion of the piece moved in step, the next section moves in an arpeggio, all on 1 string, from the open to the 3rd fret, to the 7th fret, and then right up to 12th. And the fingers I'll use for that are open, 1st finger on the 3rd fret, that's us in 3rd position, stretch to little finger on the 7th fret, and then bring your little finger right up to the 12th fret. Together you'll get this. Okay, and we repeat that top 12th fret note for another bar then. A common problem I'll find there is people will hold on to the 1st finger on the 3rd fret and then stretch the little finger onto the 7th. There's no real need. You can very briefly let go and just get the little finger on like that. You see that in my left hand? Don't feel you need to keep on finger 1 and stretch to that. You can simply transfer over to the little finger on the 7th fret and then shift it all up like that. We're now up at the 12th fret on the 1st string with our little finger. And we're about to come across one of the first left-hand challenges in the tune. There's quite a big position shift here for the left hand. We have our little finger on the 12th fret. Our 2nd finger falls quite neatly onto the 10th fret. The next note we need is on the 8th. And I'll find a lot of people will try and put maybe their 1st finger there. In classical guitar, we like to prepare the left hand and get it ready. So what I'm going to do is play my little finger, 2nd finger, and quite a large position shift little finger on the 8th fret, that actually puts us in 5th position. We're going to come from 9th position to 5th position. And we're going to do it really with our weaker fingers, so that's going to take a bit of practice. It's quite easy to shift with your first finger. It's not so easy with your little finger. So you're going to have here my little finger on the 12th fret, second finger on the 10th, and then jump to little finger on the 8th. And that puts us in position, ready to go for the next bar. So we're now on to the little half bar we have at the 5th fret. We've worked our way in there, and we've landed our little finger on the 8th fret, and you'll find your first finger will now fall quite neatly across the 5th fret. We have a little half bar there. You can also play it, because we need an A bass note with a full bar. I just find it easier with a half bar, and then use the thumb to pluck the open A string. So if you look at the right hand here, you'll see my ring, middle, and index fingers haven't changed. It's still the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd strings, but my thumb has moved up to the open A note, the open 5th string. But you'll see here in the right hand camera, you'll see that the ring, middle, and index fingers just stay where they are. You'll then play this really quite straightforward little melody, but the fact that you've had to keep this half bar on might make this bar a little harder to play. But the melody is quite straightforward. It's just 8th fret, 7th, 5th, and then back up 5th, 7th, 8th. The underlying harmony there, as you can see, has changed really from an E minor chord to an A minor chord. And again, the melody, little finger on 8, 3rd finger on 7th. Your melody note is within the bar then, and again, but your 3rd finger on the 7th fret, and your little finger on the 8th. Let me play that whole bar for you then. I find this next section gives students the most difficulty. We have a full bar across the 7th fret, underlying a B major chord, which is our dominant chord in the key of E minor, the key we're in here. It causes quite a few problems, and we're going to look at the left hand again later on, some tips I can give you to help strengthen it. But for now, what we need is the 1st string, 2nd string, or within the bar. The 3rd string is 2nd finger on the 8th fret, and our bass note is on the 6th string, 7th fret also. And our right hand now has come back to thumb on the 6th string, and again, as always, our ring, middle, and index fingers on the top 3 strings. So you're probably going to find yourself having some difficulty getting clarity on maybe the 2nd string. That's the one I find gives people a lot of difficulty. This will happen. They'll get a dud note on that 2nd string. There's a few things you can do really to try and help that. The most important one for me is, rather than gripping the neck of the guitar with just your hand, use your whole left arm to pull back into the fingerboard. You can compensate for that pressure with your right arm on top of the guitar, keeping the guitar still. But you'll find, like, I can play that passage without my thumb. You see here my thumb, it's got nothing. My thumb isn't applying any counter pressure there. It's just a pressure working into the fingerboard, and I'm using my whole arm to do it. Now, of course, we will have our thumb on the back of the neck of the guitar for stability, but it's not about squeezing the guitar. Okay, the melody, while we hold on that chord, the melody is 7th fret, 8th, back to 7th, then a big stretch to 11th, into 8th, and back on to 7th. A few challenges there. In order to get that 8th fret, you really have to contract the hand, squeeze the hand together to fit it in, and it's followed immediately by a large extension. So it's quite tricky. That's something that's going to take time to get right. When you see me play that, you'll also see my bar with my 1st finger doesn't stay fixed. I'm allowing myself to pivot slightly, and that'll help, I think, you get the melody in there on the 8th fret. Of course, the whole time I do that, I'm making sure I'm getting nice clean notes. And as I say, later on we're going to look at the bar again and some tips I might be able to give you there. But the most important one is say to use your whole left arm to apply pressure to the fingerboard. Don't just squeeze with the left hand. Okay, so we've just come off that bar on the 7th fret, and we have to jump to our little finger just where we started at the beginning of the piece, on the 7th. That's quite a jump. So I allow myself musically to maybe bend the rhythm a little bit there and give myself a little bit of a chance to jump onto that note. And then we have, just like the beginning, 7th, the 5th, the 3rd, 3rd, 2nd, open. And I use exactly the same fingers. Little finger, 2nd, bring 2nd down to 1st finger, open. Okay, now we only have a few bars to go for the first half. We pop on a B7 chord, which most people will know. It's 2nd fret of the 5th, 1st of the 4th, 2nd fret of 3rd, open 2nd, and 2nd fret of 1st. Our thumb again needs to come up to the 5th string to pluck that B bass note. But again, the ring, middle, and index fingers stay where they are, and you play that 3 times. The way I like to play this tune, I then move up to the 4th string, 1st fret, that D sharp in the bass. And in the melody, the little finger moves from 2nd up to 3rd and back to 2nd. But with this D sharp, bass sounds quite nice. If I put those 2 bars together for you, you'll get this. And that D sharp actually leads us quite nicely into the E minor chord we're going to play next. I like to play it like a regular, or like most people will play E minor with the 2nd and 3rd fingers. And you, for the first time now, the right hand pattern is going to change. The thumb now plays on every beat, not just on beat 1. The ring, middle, and index fingers stay put on the top 3 strings, but the thumb plucks the 4th string, E note, 5th string, 2nd fret, B note. I'll use my little finger to hit this G, 6th string, 3rd fret, and then the 2 outer strings open. So let me try that for you again. You have the thumb on the 4th string, thumb on the 5th, thumb plucks the 6th, and then the 6th and 1st together. And that brings us to the end of the first half. But if I put all that together for you, you'll hear how this D sharp leads quite nicely into this E. And we usually finish that half with just 2 open B strings before repeating.